to the IFF TV podcast.
Football Fan TV, this is the League of Ireland show and it's episode 3. I'm joined by Gary Spain and Gerard Brown, and I suppose to kick things off, you've got the Pats jersey on you there. We might as well talk about St. Pat's, the early kick-off against Derry, 2-0 victory, goals from Robbie Benson and Darragh Burns with his first senior goal. Obviously Derry City with Lupano getting sent off for 2 yellows in the first half. But from your perspective, Gerard, did you get a chance to watch the game, and what were your feelings on the game overall?
I did. I was off work Friday, so I full in front of LOI on Friday evening. Overall, yeah, happy. I think it was a good, solid, professional kind of performance. Apart from a decent start in the opening 5 or 10 minutes from Derry, it was quite clear after that they looked like they were side they were going to settle and take a point. You could tell that they weren't on a good run. So even when Lampino got sent off, it didn't really kind of change much because they were kind of sitting deep anyway and putting a lot of men behind the ball. I think the biggest thing that impressed me most about Pats was they didn't panic. They didn't kind of think we have to start forcing the initiative. We got the extra man. Just take your time, just relax, and eventually we should be kind of breaking down. And thankfully it came in the second half. Couple of good efforts in the first half. Was it Matty Smith and Chris Forrester both forced dark side into a couple of good saves. Birmingham put in a great cross on the left-hand side. Unfortunately, no one got on the end of it. And that man, again, was heavily involved in the opening goal. Lovely cross into the box. I thought at first Coughlin, he overdone it, took too many touches. I thought maybe he should have hit himself. But thankfully, it ran nicely for Robbie Benson, and he put it past dark side. And then second goal probably was the pick of the two of them. A brilliant ball out from the back from Matty Smith and Darragh Burns, who I was impressed with last week against Bohs. Takes it well, gets a couple of touches, gets it out from his feet and puts it across the face of the goal. And once that went in with a numerical extra man, even I should say, numerical advantage. That's it. The numerical advantage definitely felt the points were always safe from there on in.
Yeah, but just on like the fact that Derry get the second yellow. I mean, Lupano, the stupidity of that was it Billy King? He pulled back and he could have just let him go. Like, he was clearly on a yellow. There's no need to pull him back for the second yellow I'm talking about. I just looking at him, just going, like, your team is struggling right now. This is just not a thing that you need to be doing. And I believe Declan Devoy just gave him an absolutely horrendous look. I was reading on Twitter. Obviously a great victory for Pats, and it's delighted for Darragh Burns as well. Obviously his first senior goal. Robbie Benson seems to be stepping up his game. He obviously I don't know if you'd give him the goal against Shamrock Rovers, but you could say he played his part in it. If you're going to give the Rory Gaffney goal against Sligo for Rovers, you're going to have to give the Robbie Benson goal for Pats in that game. But I think, Robbie Benson's really stepped up for Pats, and I think in recent years Pats have struggled, obviously with goals and stuff like that, and these are games that previously they probably would have drawn or probably even lost when they're expected to win. So the fact that they're going out and winning things, and maybe the fact that he's brought in a lot of, I suppose, ex-Dundalk players who have experience in winning things, bring that valued experience mixed in with the youth. Obviously, the likes of Darragh Burns coming in. You've had a lot of young players coming through there in terms of the academy and coming up to the senior team. But Gary, when you've seen the result, and what were you thinking? Because I know you were on your way down to Limerick.
Yeah, look, Pats have made a really, really impressive start to the season. I mean, I think Stephen O'Donnell must be absolutely delighted. I mean, if you look at the fixtures, starting off away to Shamrock Rovers, and then your next away game is Bohemians, the top two from last season. And to take 4 points from those and to win both their home games against Drogheda. And, okay, you might expect them to beat Drogheda, but to beat Derry as well. And I suppose if you look at the start of the season and say, Pats, if they go on a good run, might be in contention for Europe. And maybe that's still the aim. But at what stage do you start to talk about title challenge, maybe? I don't know. It is too early to tell. But certainly, it's been a fantastic start for Pats. And Stephen O'Donnell and their fans must be absolutely delighted with that. On the other side of the coin, very disappointing. They're
wearing their colours today, so be careful what you say.
Yeah, I mean, not quite candy stripes, but it has to be very disappointing for Derry City being bottom of the table. Now I know they have a game in hand, the game coming up against Shamrock Rovers tomorrow night, but that's a pretty tough one as well. But they'll be bitterly disappointed with their start to the season. And as you said, Paul, the red card was absolutely stupid. I mean, you're on a yellow card, particularly in the first half. You're giving the game away by picking up a second one. And Derry need to start picking up results very soon, because they are... I mean, they're a massive club, and the Derry City fans would expect to see them at the other end of the table, basically challenging for Europe. They got sucked in to a relegation battle that they shouldn't have been in last season. And I don't think their fans are going to tolerate being where they are for much longer. So they desperately need to turn this around. And if not starting against Shamrock Rovers, I think it's Drogheda up in the Brandywell on Friday night, and there's going to be pressure on them to win that.
Yeah, Gerard, just on those two games coming up for Derry, obviously, he has to get Declan Devine. He has to get something out of those games, or surely he's gone.
I think that's a bit harsh. I know it's kind of stretching on from last season, where I think there was frustration at the way.
But there's a lot of fans on his back.
Yeah, I agree. It's coming from. I'm in the Derry group as well on Facebook, and even after the Waterford game, a couple of fans were saying he's only got 2 or 3 games. Like, you do feel sorry from a little in this game, because a pure moment of utter stupidity in the first half cost them. Well, not cost them, but it doesn't help their cause. Like, there's no reason for him to get the yellow card. It's early in the game. It's a ball down the wing. It's not like as if Billy King's going to run through on goal. But like, as you do touch on, they do need to start kind of getting points, because everyone else in the table has now got points. Everyone else has at least got a win at this stage. And like, they are slowly but surely going to start creeping themselves into an early relegation battle if they don't start picking up points. I think the Shamrock Rovers one for them is going to be a tricky one for them. I know Rovers have had an okay start. They would probably prefer to have more points, but I think the Drogheda game for me is one they've got to absolutely target. I know Drogheda are coming into this one on the back of a massive win, but I think Derry would have been looking at Waterford and Drogheda as the first 2 home games when I felt, right, that's definitely going to be 6 points. And there's, the fact that they could be coming away Friday evening at 9:30 with no points on the board won't look pretty. But I think it would be harsh to sack Declan at this early stage of the season. I think there's still a long way to go, still a lot of football to go, but I do agree that they need to start getting points quickly, or they'll just start to get into a very, very bad rot.
Yeah, I'm not calling for his head or anything like that. I'm just saying that fans are going to get on his back. Like, I just pulled up the table there. I mean, like, they've got no points in 3 games. They have a game in hand. They're -5 goal difference. So it's looking bleak for them unless they can turn that around. I mean, they've got good quality in the squad, like players like Parkhouse, Gartside's, Northern Ireland International. They've got good players in their squad.
Joe Hodge come back from injury as well, like.
Yeah, but I mean, he hasn't played or anything yet, so we can't be saying anything really about him till he does start playing. Do you know what I mean? So I just think they do have good quality around their squad, and they need to start showing. They need to start picking up results, or ultimately, like in everything else, it's a results-driven business. If they haven't got a point on the board yet, he'd probably be gone. Now, look, whether he goes or not, it's not. I've no affiliation to Derry, so I don't feel for him in any way, or I don't feel good or bad. Like, I hope he stays his job. I hope he can turn around, but ultimately it's going to be the fans' pressure that counts on this.
Just as a Pats fan, just going to put on my warning hat and safety hat here first. We're on about good starts to the season, early title contenders. This start does come with a little bit of a health warning. We only have to go back as far as 2 years ago, and the Harry Kenny reign, we had 8 points from 4 games, and then we went on to lose our next 3, and our season never really kind of recovered from there. So just as a Pats fan, just playing a little bit cautious, a little bit safe. But I do think Friday night's game, all at the same time, as much as I say that, I don't think Pats will ever get a better chance to win at Oriel Park, as we'll touch on in a couple of minutes.
Yeah, well, our man Ross Finden was at the game between Pats and Derry, and he caught up with Alan Matthews after the game. You can hear what he had to say here.
Ross Finden here for IFFTV, here with Alan Matthews of St. Pat's. Congratulations on the 3 points and the performance. What went right today?
We put the ball in the net twice, which is a very simplistic answer, but overall I thought we worked extremely hard to break down a very resolute and hard to play against Derry side who came here, obviously looking to try and get their season off to a positive. So we knew it was going to be a tough game. But I thought we worked really hard with the ball and also without the ball. So a very, very satisfying result.
And that is now 10 points out of a possible 12, while coming up against reigning champions Shamrock, Rovers and Bohs. Does this performance exceed your expectations at the start of the season, or is it on par with it?
I suppose our expectations at the start of the season were to ensure that we improved significantly on where we were last year and our league position. We've a long way to go, we've a lot of work to still do, but it's a good start. But all it is a start. 4 games, 10 points from it, which is very satisfying. But we've a long, long way to go, and we're going to have to come up levels again if we want to get in and finish anywhere near where we want to finish, which is higher than obviously last season. But we've got good players, prepared to work hard, prepared to commit themselves on and off the pitch. So as I said, hopefully we can continue this.
Yeah, as you said, a fantastic start. How do you maintain these performances? Is it in training, or where is it done?
I think the players set their own standards and demands on each other, and that's something that we try to create in the sense of the players that have been here, the younger players and the guys that have come into the club. They try to come into an environment where it's a positive working environment, but each day the players will challenge themselves to try and improve and ensure that the standards are high. So if we're getting buy-in, which we've got from players to do that, and it's an infectious situation, you're getting young players coming into a positive environment, older players seeing that there's a very strong work ethic across the group, and as I said, it makes for hard working performances. You won't win every week, but you give yourself a good chance to do it if you have that mindset, and thankfully to date, as I say, it's only the start, that's been very evident.
And how reassuring is it knowing that you have the quality on the bench to make a difference when they come onto the pitch, like Darragh Burns did today?
It's brilliant when you have lads who are not playing in the starting 11, but their attitude is 100% spot on. They're ready to come in and produce when needed, and Darragh's done that in the last couple of weeks. He played against Bohs, he came on against Drogheda, set up a goal and done one tonight. But it's going to be a squad game. We haven't got a particularly big squad, and as the course of the season, we're going to need everybody to make a contribution. As I say, players, their attitude when they're picked is being excellent. The players' attitude when they haven't been picked is also being excellent. So as I said, that all been well.
Cheers, thank you.
Okay, on to Oriel Park now, and Dundalk 0, Bohemians 1. Georgie Kelly, with a penalty on 13 minutes, and he comes back to haunt his former club. I think, when Georgie Kelly originally left for Pats on loan, I always felt like if he was going to leave, he'd always come back to haunt Dundalk. And obviously this is what's happened, but I'm going to whip up the table again there. I mean, Dundalk have played 4 games and have 1 point out of those 4 games, and they're losing against teams that you'd never expect them to lose against last season. Between Shane Keegan and Filippo Giovignoli, there's a lot of pressure mounting, and a lot of people thought they were going to get sacked over the weekend. There was a lot of hemming and hawing on Twitter, people saying that they were called in for emergency meetings and this and that, but nothing seemed to really come of it other than I suppose training. But I'm sure there was some sort of warning signs going off. I mean, it's crazy when you think of it. I know Dundalk, so many times under Stephen Kenny, they had the rebuild and they done really, really well. But that was kind of over the stretch of the season, and they probably will start coming good. But they do need to start coming good soon, because the fans of Dundalk just aren't going to take it for this long. They're used to success now at this rate, especially their younger fans and stuff like that. So they're going to be kind of putting the pressure on. As far as Bohs are concerned, I'm sure Bohs are absolutely delighted to, they haven't started the season well. This is just the perfect game for them to bounce back and try and kick on from here. So, I think going into that game, either side, we're thinking the first goal here is crucial, because the heads will probably drop after that. And it seemed that was the case. Gary, were you surprised when you saw this result?
Yeah, I mean, I was still a bit surprised by it. I mean, obviously, both teams had gone into the game without a win, and you're talking about second and third from last season, and our second against the FAI Cup holders. So it was a massive game. I probably keep expecting Dundalk to turn it around, and I think it is fair to say the Dundalk fans are up in arms at the moment, even more so. I was just talking about the Derry fans, but even more so the Dundalk fans, because it has been, for the last probably 8 years since Stephen Kenny took over, it's probably been more or less non-stop success, and it's incredible to see them playing the second bottom in the table at the moment. And with the budget they have, the players they've signed, this is not going to be able to continue for much longer. And I know Ger's saying it's a great chance for Pats to get a win in Oriel Park. I think if you offered Stephen O'Donnell a draw in Oriel Park, he'd actually bite your hand off for that, because it would still be a fantastic result for them. In fact, it's going to be even more difficult to be going there at the moment, because the pressure that Filippo Giuseppe and Shane Keegan, whatever the management team is, are under. And the whole management team have got to be under pressure, given the results there. They're one of only 2 clubs in the league without a win. And on the flip side, it's a huge boost for Keith Long. I think if any manager in the league has overachieved in recent years, it's Keith Long and Bohemians, because they're on a budget, they're part-time, and they've been competing with full-time professional outfits with a far bigger budget. And Keith Long loses his best players every year. And to do what he did 2 years ago was phenomenal. To repeat it, do even better last season was phenomenal. And he is someone who has to be given time. And that win, I think, has definitely bought him some time. And I'm sure he'll turn it around. He's an absolutely superb manager. And to keep doing what he's doing is just incredible. And I think the Bohs fans will probably have a lot more patience. I hope they do. Than the Derry or Dundalk fans. They may feel that they've spent quite a bit of money and they would expect better results. But I think that win certainly gives Bohs some breathing space, and I would expect them to go on a bit of a run now.
I just think, with Dundalk, and Jay, I'm going to come to you on this. Do you think that in a way that they're lucky that fans aren't there, or are they maybe missing fans?
I'd probably have to agree with your first option, because despite the fact that they got into the Europa League group stages last season, won the Cup, I didn't kind of get the sense and feel from what I was kind of hearing echoes on social media. I know you can't always buy into it, that they were overly happy with Filippo. And, I just find the situation very, very strange as well. I'm not overly mad on Shane Keegan as manager. I know some of you think differently. I know he's done great to get Wexford up into the Premier Division, but he brought Galway down. I just kind of feel that maybe this job is a little bit of a step kind of too far from whatever his role is, whether he calls the main shots or not as the head coach or not. But probably are maybe slightly better off. I just think, as you say, they're so used to success over the last kind of couple of years, and they've almost nearly turned up every game just demanding and expecting a victory and a couple of goals. And the fact that's not happened, I think they'd be a little bit kind of relentless. Now, as poor and all as they were Friday night, they were a little bit unlucky. There was a good free kick in the first half from Michael Duffy. Someone got on the end of it. I can't remember who headed it, but hit the crossbar. Question mark over Dan Cleary's foul on Ross Tierney. Was it inside or outside? I did think actually it was inside. And then definitely towards the end, I think they should have had a penalty, a good cross in from Darragh Leahy. And as when I look back on the replay this morning, it definitely hit Rob Cornwall's hand. Should have been a penalty later on. You'd fancy Pat Hoopin from 12 yards to stop that one home. And then they probably had the best chance to equalise midway through the second half. Good cross from McElhenney, and Sam Stanton, puts it any other way, it's in the back of the net, but he just hits it straight at James Talbot. He makes a comfortable save and gets the way. So despite the fact that the performance wasn't great and things aren't quite going from the last kind of while, you just kind of feel the luck just isn't really on their side at the moment.
Yeah, and I think with Dundalk, I think once they get a win, I think you'll start to see things click. I don't think it's, panic stations, but people might be thinking, oh, well, if they get rid of Shane Keegan and Filippo and throw that all out the window and come in and get a new manager, might get a new manager bounce. But I do think, as you said, it's from the game there, they had the chances, and another day they go in and they probably win the game. But such is when your luck is out, that just seems to be the way. Gary, have you had to add on that?
Yeah, the only thing I will say is they have been a bit unlucky in that they spent a lot of money in the off-season. They signed some quality players. I mean, international players who are regular internationals, albeit with the Faroes and with Latvia. And Sonny Nasfad is only just coming out of being locked up in the hotel for mandatory hotel quarantine, having played in Austria for the Faroes. So he's been missing. He's also been suspended, actually. So, maybe he wouldn't have been available anyway. They were missing their Latvian international for a couple of games because he was away in international duty. Yeah. So they have bought well, but they've also spent a lot of money. And when you spend that kind of money, it comes with added pressure. And so even though the players haven't been available, they've also the the African international as well, who was away on international duty in the last window, who wasn't available. So they've spent a lot of money. They haven't had the players available for that money. They were unfortunate they had to play away to Shamrock Rovers, and they were unlucky to lose that game, in fairness. But now they're in a situation where there's 4 games in, there's no win, and there's a lot of pressure coming on the Pats game. And I agree with Gerard. I think they're probably lucky that the fans are not in the ground, because when you've had this much success and fans get used to it, it's very hard when things start going wrong, and fans can get very vocal very quickly. And I'm seeing it on social media, so I'm sure it would be just as vocal if they were inside Oriel Park.
Yeah, I think, Bohs fans will obviously be delighted they get the first win, and probably get them on a bit of a run now. And I think Dundalk will be targeting Pats, and as Jerry said, he probably looking at them saying it's probably never been a better time to play them. But at the same time, when their backs are against the wall, it could be a difficult time to play them as well, Jerry.
Yeah, I suppose we'll only know come 8 o'clock Saturday evening whether my point was right or not. But it is kind of one of them, because of the quality and because of their recent pedigree and history. You still are expecting that at some stage it's going to click for them, and one game eventually it's going to happen. I just hope it's not this Saturday, and it's the midweek game they have after that.
It's mad though, because you actually look at the squad, like some of the OGs, you'd probably say, in terms of Hubin, Duffy, Shields,
Boyle,
McElhenney. So they still have really top quality players in their team. So eventually it will click. Like you can't have players like that and stay down near the bottom. It just can't happen. I think they will start showing their quality very, very soon. And as I say, I think they'll start to bounce back. Unsure if it'll be against Pats, because I've been impressed with Pats so far this season, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. And as far as Bohs are concerned, they'll be delighted. They've got their first win under their belt, and because they kind of threw a few games away, like the Finn Harps game, they kind of gifted the goal there against Finn Harps, and that was a bit of a shock result, and that kind of set the standard a little bit for them for the season, and then it was kind of kept on happening, shock results here and there. So they'll be happy to be bounced back, and obviously Dundalk will not be happy, but they'll be looking to target this Pats game, and they'll probably think this game more than anything they'll be up for, to show what they're about. And if anything goes wrong in this game, I think it could be a change of manager probably after this. If they go, 5 games without a win, I just don't think that the board and the fans will accept that. But time will tell. So we'll have to see what happens. So on to the showgrounds then. And Sligo Rovers won, Shamrock Rovers won. I actually watched this game on Watch LOI. Wasn't a great game at all, to be honest. Wasn't a host of chances or anything like that. Obviously the goals, if Aguero gets a goal in the 83rd minute with a howler from Alan Manis, which is something that you just don't see from him normally. I was at the game against Dundalk last week, and if it wasn't for him, Rovers would have lost that game. And then he goes and does that. I think Stephen Bradley said after the game that he saved them so many times that he's allowed one every now and again, and he could count on one hand the amount of mistakes that he's made for the club, and that was one of them. Then obviously Rory Gaffney gets the goal late on. It was given as a John Mahon own goal. But I think that the way Rovers actually fought to get the equaliser, it was very, champion style, and they never gave up. They were adamant they were going to score. Kind of reminded me of Man United when they used to go down a goal, lay on the game, and they'd be relentless till they got that goal, whether it was an equaliser or a winner. And obviously Gaffney got that. They went for it, but I would have said 1-1 would have been a fair result, although 0-0 would have been a fair result as well. But it seemed as though when actually Sligo scored the goal, then Rovers decided to start playing. From what I was watching anyway, Rovers fans might disagree with that, and that's fair enough. But I thought Shamrock Rovers, there's only getting to a spat between the Sligo and Shamrock Rovers supporters. But I just think it was a fairly even game overall, and it wasn't a spectacular game. It wasn't a great advert for the League of Ireland. I'm glad it wasn't televised, because it wasn't a brilliant game. 2 good sides, but it wasn't a great game. Gary, did you get a chance to watch this?
Yeah, and I think we need to give some credit to Sligo Rovers as well. I mean, still unbeaten. They're sitting third in the table at the moment. 2 wins and 2 draws. And it's probably a draw is probably a fair result, but I think Sligo will probably feel, having gone ahead so late, that they didn't manage to hold on and win. And I agree in Alan Manus. He saved Shamrock Rovers so many times. He was the reason, as you said, they beat Dundalk, but it was a howler. But it happens to every keeper. Unfortunately, when you're a goalkeeper, your mistakes cost goals. Whereas if you're a striker and you miss an open goal, you always get another chance. For Shamrock Rovers, they're not playing like the team of last season. But it is an incredible sign of their character, because that's the second time they've fallen behind late in the game and come back and, as you said, avoided defeat. Reminiscent of maybe Alex Ferguson's Man United, as you said, Paul, that they just don't know when they're beaten. And that is a very good sign, because they will find form again. And they're still favourites for the title in my book, even though if you look at the league table, that doesn't bear it out. But it is very, very early days to be taking too much notice of the league. They have a game in hand. And it's very early days to take too much notice of the league table at this stage. So great sign of their character. I'm sure Stephen Bradley will be delighted that they're still unbeaten. And the other big thing for Stephen Bradley is the poor form, the poor results that Dundalk and Bohs have got, who they would probably have seen as their main challengers at the start of the season.
Ger, did you watch this game, or what were your thoughts on the result anyway?
Yeah, I was at Bishopsgate for Longford and Drogheda at the same time, so I only got to see the highlights from the package on RT Sport, and it pretty much echoed the views I'd have from what you see. It did seem like a very poor game. I think they only showed one chance each for both teams in the first half, and I agree with you, Paul. That was the main thing that just struck me. Even just you could pick up on from the highlights, just the tempo and pick up from Shamrock Rovers after the equaliser. I think they showed more action on the highlights clip after Sligo's goal than they did beforehand, and that goal from Waterford came in like the 80-something minute. But just, they had a couple of good chances. Mandrew had a good long-range effort that McGinty had to save as well. A lot of good play down the right as well. Sean Gannon really kind of seemed to be to the fore. He put that great cross in for Gaffney. There's no two ways about it. It did take a heavy deflection off John Mahon. But give Gaffney credit, because he takes a couple of good touches, composes himself, still gets a good strike away, and obviously, just unfortunately for Mahon, it ends up in the back of the net. It's probably a result I would have probably predicted beforehand. For Sligo kind of point of view, it probably will be annoyed to take the lead kind of so late on and to kind of see how, and it would have been a big statement win, because I have a mate who's a Sligo Rovers fan, and he's kind of giving me a good bit of chip after Pats is starting, saying, well, if we beat Shamrock Rovers, we have to be considered as main title contenders. I think they would have been, but as you say, like from Shamrock Rovers, similar to the Pats game as well, instantly, like when they go behind, they just switch on, and it's like, right, we're not going to lose this game. We're still going to at least find a way. And like, I know they're a couple of points adrift, but they've got that game in hand against a Derry team that's out of form. Then we've got a Longford team at home on Saturday who've now gone out of form themselves. You would fancy them to be taking maximum points this week and climbing back up that table. Obviously, then Sligo Rovers have what should be a very, very tasty Northwest derby against Harps on Saturday.
Yeah, well, I think Sligo fans are buzzing at the moment the way the team are playing, and I think they're just taking it game by game. But with Shamrock Rovers, as you said there, like literally, as soon as they went down the goal, then they just were bombarding Sligo. But I was actually totally shocked when I seen that go in. I hadn't been that shocked in a long time, because I just don't associate Alan Manus with making too many mistakes, making mistakes in general. He's very, very solid, very assured, and he seems to be Rovers' backbone most of the time. I went back to the Dundalk game where last week he was saving everything onto crossbars and this and that, and just keeping the ball out. So look, I'm sure he'd be delighted that his teammates bailed him out in this case. But I spoke to Sligo Rovers fan and host of the EJ Menswear podcast, The Changing Room, Mark Halton. You can hear what he had to say here. Mark Halton, a big Sligo Rovers fan, and I'm going to get your thoughts on the game. Shamrock Rovers on Saturday night. Sligo Rovers won, Shamrock Rovers won from the showgrounds. What were your thoughts on the game, and did you think it was a fair reflection on the game, the final score?
Yeah, look, I enjoyed the game. I think probably the opening of the first half, I wouldn't say scrappy will be a word to use. I thought the standard was very good. The ball was getting fairly pinged about. I'd say Shamrock Rovers probably started the better. I think we came into it then as the game went on. I don't think there was much for either team chance-wise. I thought from a Sligo Rovers point of view, again, John Mahon was brilliant. I thought Horgan was brilliant. I was chatting to Mark Rosser this morning. I was just saying, if you ever wanted an example of why Sligo Rovers wanted to sign Greg Bolger this season, it was 90 minutes on display on Saturday. He was absolutely unreal. He was bossing them around. Thought he was brilliant. Again, we probably struggled a little bit up front, but I'd say they did as well. In terms of the second half, again, much of a muchness. There wasn't an awful lot of chances in the game. What I would say is that looking at last year, Paul, from when we played them in the semi-final in Tala, I remember coming away from that game and just being so disheartened. It was so bad, I suppose, on the day. To how we played the other day, we matched them physically. I didn't think we were intimidated by them. I know they've lost a couple of good players, but the leap in quality from Saturday, from when we played them in the semi-final last year, was huge. As for the goal, look, Alan Madison is going to make too many of them mistakes in his career, so you take them when you can get them. Would have taken a draw before the game against Shamrock Rovers? Probably. When you're so close to getting 3 points against them, it's hard to take conceding a late goal. But look, we got lucky with our goal. Again, I think we were unlucky the way we conceded with John Mann. So I suppose all in all, I think it was definitely a fair result. I know one or two in the Shamrock Rovers camp have come out and said since that they don't think it was a fair result. I think most people have quashed that. I think 100% the point for both teams was fair on Saturday, Paul.
Yeah, because I watched the game. I was watching it at home, and I was watching the game thinking both sides just aren't really going for it. It was just fairly scrappy throughout. And then obviously when Figueira scored the goal, which I was totally in shock about, it seemed only then that Shamrock Rovers got going and started playing, and then it was just a bit of a flurry towards the end, and then ultimately they got the goal. I was saying to the lads earlier, like, it's kind of reminded me a little bit of Manchester United under Ferguson in terms of the way they just were relentless till they got their goal. But before that, there was no signs of that. But encouraging signs from a Sligo point of view that he's looked very much, on their level.
Yeah, I don't think you could actually criticise the attack too much of either team on Saturday, Paul. In fairness, give credit where it's due. Both defences were very, very good. I thought Sean Hoare was absolutely outstanding at the back for Shams. And I thought likewise for ourselves, John Mann was brilliant as well.
I'm just laughing at you saying Shams, sorry.
Yeah, so you need to get used to that. No, honest to God, look, it's easy to say both attacking teams were off the boil a little bit. But no, I think both defences done very well. Hoare and John Mahon were absolutely outstanding on the day. And as I said, I suppose Shamrock Rovers coming into the game, we thought that, if you can stop Graham Burke and Danny Mandrew at the source, you're going to go a long, long way to getting the results. In fairness to Mandrew, I think the doubts about him that if he gets a kick and he is marked out of the game, is his work rate good enough for Shamrock Rovers to still get involved in the game? I think 100%. I think he was, in fairness to him. He didn't go missing. He dropped looking for the ball. So I think there's a big improvement in him probably in his attitude from being with Bohemians last year. But overall, I wouldn't say delighted with a point. When you're a couple of minutes from victory against Shams, you take them when you can get them, Paul. But we'll take the point and we'll move on to the Northwest El Clasico next week against Harps.
Just going to pull up the league table here, and obviously you see Sligo there are in third position on 8 points. How far are we talking about them making a title run or European run? What would you say? Very early days still?
I would say it's still very early days, Paul. Looking at how we started last year, it's chalk and cheese. I think if we can keep players fit, we don't have a massive squad, but the squad we do have a significant increase in quality to the last couple of years, Paul. I think you're looking at keeping the keeper, keeping Mahon and Buckley, and I think keeping Greg Bolger fit. I think if you can keep that core of the team fit, a league title challenge is going to be tough. I still think Dundalk, they're well behind at the minute. They could put a string of performances together. For what I'm saying about Shamrock Rovers, they're still going to be the team to beat, Paul. By no means I'm saying they're not. I think St. Pat's, definitely Stevie O'Donnell has added an awful lot of steel to there. I think, look, if we got Europe again this year, I think Europe, and I think second, first, second, third, I think a league title, I wouldn't like to come out there and say we're going to win the league. Obviously, you have to believe it. I think if we were in the top three this year, and a trip to the Aviva. I think most Sligo Rovers fans at this minute in time would bite your hand off for it. I think, after 6-7 weeks, you'll see a better shape of the league. Will Pats be able to keep it up? One thing I will say about Sligo Rovers, Paul, is I actually don't think we've even hit form. And that's been honest with you. I think up front, Romeo has had a couple of goals that maybe have kind of taken away from maybe how he's not fully fit yet, basically. I think Ryan De Vries is off the mark at the minute. He's not fully fit yet. And they still have to kind of hit a bit of form. So I would say from the back four and the midfield, we've hit the ground running. I think in attack, we haven't hit the ground running yet. So in terms of that, I'm still excited at what's yet to come. So yeah, that's my views on it.
Perfect. Well, listen, Mark, thanks for taking the time out to have a chat with us. I'm sure you're busy enough there with all the clothes around you in the background there. Yeah. So, actually, while you're there, any sales on EJ Menswear that you want to tell anyone while they're listening?
Yeah, look, we always have a bit of a sale on at EJ Menswear. We're actually just after finishing our massive clear out sale for autumn winter. So we're just going into spring summer now, getting all the content ready and photo shoots and all that. So we have lots like Tommy Hilfiger, Hugo Boss, Ralph Lauren. It's flying in and it's flying out as fast, Paul. So if any of your listeners want to hop on and have a little look, we look after them. There's a bit of discount on the website now as well at the minute. So well worth heading over for a look. And you look better than me, even though I work here. I'm in the sports gear today. But no, there's some absolutely quality gear on the website, Paul.
Yeah, and just obviously yourself, you said you done your own podcast this morning. So yeah. What was that on, and where can people find it?
Yeah, so you can find that. It'll be going up on Apple and Spotify. I'm hoping the next hour. It's on YouTube. It'll be going up on our Facebook page tonight. We have Mark Rossiter on this morning. Mark's actually a Sligo native. A lot of people think he's actually lived away from Sligo for a long time. He would have been at Sunderland years ago, Paul. You'd know Mark yourself. He's a legend around Sligo.
Follower of the page, yeah.
Bo's Dundalk. Bo's legend. So I had Rossi on this morning. I had a good chat with him about all the weekend's action and a little chat to him about the All-Ireland League and stuff like that. So he's a great man. He's probably the only man from Sligo who talks more than me. So it was great to get him on.
All right. Well, if anyone's listening and want to go check it out, make sure you do. And Mark, as always, thanks very much for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure, Paul. Thanks very much.
Right, up to Ballybuffet, and Finn Harps continued their great start to the season with a 2-1 win over Waterford. Adam Foley with a goal in the 41st minute. Obviously, John Martin had taken the lead at the 35th minute, and then David Webster with a late goal managed to squeeze it in to give Finn Harps victory. Although Kevin Sheedy didn't seem too happy about it after the game. Who would be? Gary, when you saw this result, I actually expected Finn Harps to win this game, but what were your thoughts on it when you saw the final score?
Yeah, I mean, it's another test of Finn Harps' incredible start to the season. And I suppose they would have been favourites, but Waterford had made the long trip to the Brandywell a week earlier and pulled off an incredible win, which seemed to have turned around their poor start to the season. But Harps just find a way to win again. And again, it was last gasp from Dave Webster. And it was one of those shots, I think it was it Ollie Horgan said after the game, sometimes it just ends up in the rosette, but it just flew into the net. He just caught it right when the corner just fell to him, about 8 yards out. And what a way to win a game. And we were talking about fans. What a shame there wasn't a full house of fans behind that goal, because I can only imagine the reaction in Finn Park had they seen that one smash into the back of the net. They just would have gone absolutely mental, because they've a brilliant support up there. And right, there would be so many of them behind that goal, sucking the ball in. But what a start for them. 10 points out of 12. And away to Sligo in the top of the table, West Derby at the weekend. Waterford, I suppose if you look at it from a positive, they made 2 very long trips to the Brandywell and to Finn Park and came away with 3 points. But they'd be very disappointed. I'm sure Kevin Sheedy's very disappointed to lose a second away game in the last minute, because they lost in Drogheda as well to a late own goal. And then to lose in Ballybuffet to such a late goal again. I mean, there would have been a couple of extra points that would have come in very handy. But look, hats off to Finn Harps. 10 points from 4 games. They just keep shocking everybody.
Yeah, Ger?
Yeah, I wasn't overly surprised. It did cause a bit of a stir and kind of a gasp of reaction when we heard it come through in Bishopsgate that they got a 90th minute winner. I can see why Kevin Sheedy, just from watching back the goal, was frustrated because they don't deal with that corner at all. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a decent delivery from Barry McNamee, but the fact is, like, Dave Webster then is left kind of unmarked. I think even as well, for some reason, they don't seem to have reverse angles in Watch LOI, but Finn Harps' YouTube channel or YouTube page or whatever had it, and it did seem to kind of beat Brian Murphy at the near post, and maybe you might ask one or two questions of the goalkeeper. Nothing, again, you could even maybe slightly question for the first goal. Don't get me wrong, it was a good team goal by Finn Harps with Mark Coyle and Barry McNamee heavily involved, and it's a powerful shot from Adam Foley, and he's in great form. But again, it seems to be kind of pretty much straight at Brian Murphy, who's usually just such a solid goalkeeper as well. But just from kind of Finn Harps' point of view, they're just carrying on that momentum from last season. They had such a great run last year. It looked certainty they were going to end up in that relegation playoff. Then they won 3 of their last 4 and avoided that altogether. And they've just kind of carried that momentum through. I've said it to a few people kind of jokingly, but it just seems to be a bit of a vibe with them, say, similar from that Leicester City team in the Premier League in England from 2015-16. Like, they pulled off a great escape to stay up one season and carry that momentum next season. And we all know what happened. And just saying, putting it out there early, who is to say that this Finn Harps team couldn't go on to do the Leicester City equivalent in the League of Ireland 2021 season? But very, very early days. But I think, realistically, probably speaking, I will go with Gary's point that he made in the last show. This is probably the season where they establish themselves kind of comfortably mid-table slot in that in the Premier Division and avoid a kind of relegation playoff. But I suppose you still hear the traditional Ollie Horgan quotes of 10 points still won't be enough to keep us out in the Premier Division.
I think, in fairness, I know you want to be critical of the goalkeeper there, but I thought it was a very good finish. If you actually look, I think there's a freeze frame of the chance, and or there's a picture of it, and he's one kind of area to hit, and he manages to hit it with his left foot as well. So it was a very good finish, to be fair to him. Obviously, if you're a Waterford fan, you'd be raging that that's gone in at that time as well, because obviously a point would have been good to gather the momentum from last week. So I think Finn Harps will be buzzing. I think they're just snapping that the pubs aren't open so the fans can enjoy that. But I spoke with David Webster, and you can hear what he had to say here. Right, we're joined by David Webster, Finn Harps' goal-scoring hero from the other day. Not really known for your goals, more for defending them, but talk us through the game from the other night. Another big win. That's 4 games that he's played. He's joined top now on 10 points. How are you feeling?
How's it going, Paul? We're feeling great. Look, I think it was important on Saturday to dig out a result. We were kind of talking beforehand that it didn't really matter how we played, just to get a result on the board and kind of keep it ticking over and keep the run going, and that's exactly what we did. So yeah, we're delighted with it.
Yeah, so a lot of people are kind of tipping Waterford to be down around the relegation area, and obviously most seasons Finn Harps tend to be around there. So how important do you think it is to kind of be beating teams that I suppose in some ways would be in and around you? I know at the moment the league is a bit all over the place, but it's more in your favour at the minute.
Yeah, no, of course. Look, they've got some good players there, Waterford. I know they got a good result up in Derry there the week before, and I'm sure that they'll pick up points as the season goes on. And they've got a very good manager, obviously a legend of the game, so I'm sure they'll click sooner or later and they get a few results. But I suppose maybe looking before the season started, especially those kind of teams, and we probably thought we'd be in and around them. So these games are very important. So to pick up 3 points and at home as well. We do want to make Finn Park, a tough place to come and pick up points. So it's great to get another win then at home.
Yeah, we had Ollie on we spoke to Ollie after the game last week, and he was he's very much kind of downplaying the way the season's going. He's just like taking each game at a time. But from your own point of view, how sweet was that getting the winning goal? I know it's your old side and you've got good relationships with them, but I mean, from your own point of view, to get the goal that late on when it looked like it was going to be a draw.
Yeah, so personally, it's fantastic. We went ahead and Drogheda the week before and kind of felt a bit at fault for the goal. Kind of fell asleep for the equaliser. So to get the winner then the other day was, I suppose, a bit of redemption for myself. So it felt great. But look, we deserved it. We came out of the Drogheda game and we felt we didn't do enough to win the game. So draw was probably a fair result. And the other night especially, I felt like we'd done enough. So I think we got our just rewards. And yeah, it was great. It's a great feeling.
Now, Ollie says 9 times out of 10 they go into row Z. Is he right, or did you just catch it really sweetly?
Depends who he's speaking about. Yeah, if he's speaking about me, it's 9 times out of 10, definitely. He can be goal scoring record, but no, I think, look, I suppose Ollie's Ollie. You know, he's getting asked some crazy questions off people in the media. I suppose he's giving the right answers. You know, it's only 4 games in. It's, you know, people are getting ahead of themselves, but that's up for them to do, not for us. You know, I know it's cliche as it sounds that we're taking it each game at a time, but we really are. We're just going out to enjoy ourselves and hopefully get 3 points, and that's just what it's doing at the minute. So it's going well.
Yeah, lastly, I just think when I see us now, it just seems to be a case of you are just going out and enjoying every game. There's not really going out with any fear. You know, you have some really good players in your squad this season. It looks like you can match, you know, most teams that you have so far anyway.
Yeah, we say before every game, you know, go out and enjoy yourself. And I think maybe things have been put into perspective over the last year or two. And, you know, there might have been a time when we might have got a chance to play football again. So we're adamant that you go out and play with a smile on your face and really enjoy it. And I think it's kind of playing to our favour in the sense that we're getting results by doing it, you know. And we're playing some good football at times in the right areas and at the right times. We're playing good football, but, you know, it's going well at the minute, and long may it continue.
Absolutely. But David, I can't thank you enough for coming on. You're our go-to man for Finn Harps, so thanks very much, and keep celebrating out to the next game, that goal. I'm sure you will.
Yeah, I will, yeah. No problem at all, Polly. Thanks.
To Bishopsgate and Longford 0, Drogheda 4 goals coming from a double from Mark Doyle, Chris Lyons and Hugh Douglas. Ger, I'm going to come to you on this because you were at the game, and I suppose give us just your general reaction and how the game petered out.
Yeah, kind of a classic case of how a goal can change a game, because definitely for the first 25 minutes, Longford looked a better team. They had a couple of good long-range efforts from Dylan Grimes, who was kind of their main attacking threat. They seem to be kind of handling the Drogheda attack kind of very, very well. The likes of Lyons and Doyle weren't really getting much of kind of a sniff. And then good play down the left, a good cross in by Conor Kane, the fullback, leads to an almighty grove scramble. I think it was Lyons got a header away first. Lee Stacey done very well to tip it onto the bar, but then I think between a combination of Dara Markey and eventually I think Doyle got the last touch to put it over the line. That just gave Drogheda that kind of confidence. They took that into the half-time break. They should have actually had another one just before half-time. Stacey making a good one-on-one save. I think it was with Doyle as well. And then they get the good start to the second half. But just, we were kind of wondering when the goal went in, like you'd be kind of asking questions. Don't get me wrong, it was a good cross in from James Brown. But the Longford defence just seemed to be absolutely nowhere. Lee Stacey kind of seemed to be kind of caught in 2 minds, whether to come or to stay. And then eventually, Lyons just kind of on the stretch manages to poke it into the net. And after that, game kind of just petered out, all one-way traffic. Longford's kind of heads just kind of dropped. Great cross in again from Kane. Lovely header from Doyle for his second out jumping Joe Manley. And then a good free kick, about just over 20 minutes left from Ronan Murray. And Hugh Douglas rose highest to put the ball into the back of the net. But you know, they were very, very comfortable after the second goal. Drogheda was never in doubt. Longford, they might make one side case. There was a stage just after Drogheda's second goal. They had a corner and it led to a bit of a scramble. And I think it was just about saved on the line. But other than that, they never really looked like getting back into the game. And probably could have been, it wouldn't have been unfair on Drogheda if they actually even went on to add another goal or two. Very, very comfortable victory for them. Only my concern, as we were showing in a few moments in my post-match interview with Tim Clancy, was that injury picked up by Conor Kane, because when they were struggling in that first half, there wasn't much coming down the right. He was the one player, along with the likes of maybe Markey and Murray down that left-hand side, that was kind of giving that a little bit of an attacking outlet. So they'll be hoping that his injury isn't too serious.
Gary, when you saw this, I suppose 4-0, a high-scoring game, I wasn't expecting it myself, but you know, what are your thoughts on Drogheda's start to the season?
Yeah, well, Drogheda made a superb start, but in some ways it's not surprising. If you look at the squad that Tim Clancy has assembled, he's got a lot of experienced quality players. And I mean, you're talking about the likes of Dane Massey and Hugh Douglas, and he got a goal, but very good defenders. Hugh Douglas has been probably an underrated defender for many years at Bray, etc. You got the likes of Gary Deegan, superb player to have in midfield, Darragh Markey, Ronan Murray. I mean, and then you've got the young striker Mark Doyle, who I haven't seen too much about, but he grabbed a couple of goals. I mean, you're talking about the 2 promoted teams last season. And okay, Longford probably surprised me and surprised a lot of people, maybe even themselves, by getting up through the playoffs. Drogheda were probably looking at being in the playoffs right until the end, when they just nipped ahead of Bray. And I'm sure survival is going to be the key thing. And if you look at this from a Drogheda perspective, they beat Waterford first time up. Now they've beaten Longford. They picked up another point as well. They have 7 points already. And they're looking comfortable in mid-table, and drew with Finn Harps, actually. And if you want to say 3 teams you might expect to be in the relegation zone, although, I mean, Gerard is talking about, well, Finn Harps are maybe in the title race at this point, maybe, who knows.
Well, the league table says they are. So
the league table certainly says they are, and their performances and the results says they are as well. So I better be careful what I say. So hats off to Ollie Horgan and Finn Harps. But from a Drogheda perspective, it's been a superb start to have got those results, and they were only beaten in the last minute, I think, by Pats as well. So superb start for Drogheda, and picking up results against teams they would expect to be in a relegation battle with them. So that's got to be very heartening for them. From a Longford perspective, it's got to be maybe a reality check and a bit of a bitter disappointment, because they had made a great start as well by beating Derry and getting the point at Dalymount. So a result like that is a bit of a body blow, and I think next up they're in Tala. I mean, that's going to be really tough for them. But it's... the next couple of weeks will be interesting for Longford, because they don't want to go on a run of defeats, which is always the fear from a newly promoted side.
yeah, well, I think between yourself and Jay, you've pretty much summed that up, and Jay gave a very good summary of the game. But Jay, after the game, spoke with Mark Doyle and manager Tim Clancy, who apparently is a big fan of the channel, but you can hear what they have to say here.
Fresh from his 2 goals tonight to help Drogheda to a 4-0 victory away to Longford. Mark Doyle joins us here on Irish Football Fan TV. Mark, your manager Tim Clancy was very, very impressed with that. I suppose you couldn't really ask for much more tonight.
Yeah, no, it was a great result. We've come here the last few years and we haven't been able to win. It's been disappointing. In the first division, they've always seemed to get the better of us, especially down here. So it's good to get a win against them, and it's an important 3 points.
Yeah, your 2 goals yourself, I suppose. Connor was heavily involved with both crosses coming in from the left. Obviously, the first one a bit of a goal-mouth scramble, and after a bit of misfortune for Chris, you managed to get a tap in for yourself. But your second goal, you must be really, really pleased with that, because it was a firm header to the back of the net.
Yeah, I was delighted with that one. I missed a sitter in the first half, so and I've missed a few big chances, to be honest, in the first few games. And I have got chances in every game, really. So it's good to get one tonight and last week as well.
Strikers are greedy individuals. You're on 2 goals. How annoyed, frustrated were you when you seen your number come up to be taken off? About just checking here, about 20 odd minutes to go.
Yeah, I understand that we're 4-0 up, so some lads haven't played much, so it's good to get them minutes as well. Jamesy and came on for me, and Denny as well. Denny's done well, so they deserve minutes as well. You know, everyone's knocking on the door, so wasn't too annoyed. But I didn't know I actually had 2 goals. I think Darragh Markey thinks that first one's his, but I'll take it.
You can discuss that in the bus back home.
Exactly.
4 games in, 7 points. You're a new team up in the Premier Division. You must be happy enough with that so far. It does seem to be a very open division. Even looking at a couple of tonight's results, like, it doesn't really seem as if anyone's pulling away so far.
Yeah, we're happy with that. We just kind of, I think when you come up, you just have to kind of take every game as it comes, and we always do our work on the opposition, and Tim and Kev, you know, you can trust them to set us up to try and get a result. And I think we've been in every game. We were very unlucky to lose to Pats. If we don't concede there in the last minute, we've gone unbeaten then in our first 4. So there's a big difference there. I think we'll learn from that Pats game. Finn Harps last week. On another day, maybe we nick a win. But yeah, no, we are happy with that so far. Yeah,
it's Derry away now next Friday night. Derry always pride themselves on making the Brandywell a tough place to go and having a strong home record, so you'll be knowing you're going to be in for a tough game there.
Yeah, definitely. I know they haven't started well, but they're
they're clearly a good team, you know. They're full time and they've got quality players,
That always tough, and it's always tough to go up there. We haven't played there obviously in a couple of years, but anytime you go up there, you know you're in for a game, and it's definitely going to be tough.
Mark, thanks for your time tonight and safe travels home.
No bother, thank you.
Tim, you were just saying to me off there, it was nice to get a victory against Longford. They really have been your bogey teams, their first one in 6, and to do it in style like that as well.
Yeah, listen, I wouldn't say bogey team because Longford are a very good team, so we've no right to be getting results against teams of Longford's calibre. And Dar's done an unbelievable job since he's gone in there, and we have been on the wrong end of the result a lot of times in the last couple of seasons. Performances have been there, but I think the difference tonight was we took a few chances at critical points in the game, and that gave us a leg up to go on and win the game.
Yeah, you kind of made a bit of a slow start, it's kind of fair enough to say, like didn't grind to a couple of good long range sighters that weren't kind of far away. So does it make it kind of even more depressive that you're on the way to such comprehensive victories after it took you a while to kind of find your feet in the match? Yeah,
I thought, listen, we gave away, probably too eager to close down, we gave away a lot of silly free kicks in around the box, we put pressure on us early in the game, and again Dylan had a few strikes from distance that were close. But again, if we're restricting teams to shots from outside the box, if someone scores against us, it's going to be a great strike. So we're quite happy with how it was going, and then Doyle produces a bit of magic down here in the corner and gets in, gets a shot away, and the ball's deflected up. And Chrissy and Dara scramble it back across, and Doyle gets a tap in. And that just gave us the lead and gave us something to hang on to. And just before half time, we possibly could have got another one where Lee Stacey's made a great save from Mark Doyle again. And then the second goal coming so early in the second half was a massive plus for us. And again, listen, we got another couple of goals later on in the half, but we know, listen, we're going to be on the wrong end of results like that this season, so it's nothing to get carried away with.
Yeah, that partnership of Mark Doyle and Chris Lyons, certainly from a neutral point of view, they were very exciting and entertaining to watch tonight.
Yeah, but they've been playing together now for 4 seasons. This is their 4th season together, so they've an understanding there, and Doyle can give me play midfield, he can play wide, either right or left, he can play up top, he can play off the front man. He's very versatile, which gives us that options to flip things during games. And again, listen, he's a massive goal threat for us, and himself and Chris work so hard together. And then we've got the luxury of bringing on Dinny Corcoran, with the experience that Dinny has in the league as well, to play up top. And we have a couple of young lads in Brandon Birmingham and Jordan Adiemo as well that are extremely good young players that give us options in the attacking end of the pitch. So listen, we're delighted to get the win first and foremost, but the clean sheet as well was really pleasing.
Yeah, we could be hearing the chance of a DAL for Doyle and Lyons maybe going forward. Just kind of one kind of worrying or kind of disappointment for tonight was the injury picked up by Conor Kane, because he was fantastic tonight. His cross kind of really led to the first goal. He put a brilliant cross in again for Mark's second goal. I know it's very early, the game is just over, but any update?
We're not too sure. He went down feeling his hamstring, which is normally a good sign, but I think he said he felt it when he was getting off the ground rather than when he was sprinting or decelerating. So we're not sure. Listen, he's got treatment from Dave there, and Dave will look after that. So we'll reassess it again then early next week, and we'll see where he's at. But hopefully he'll be okay for next week.
Tim, thanks for your time this evening. Safe travels home.
Brilliant, no problem. Same to yourself.
We just want to take a quick break to speak about our sponsors for this video and podcast, Team FeePay. As you can see in the image here, some of the clubs that Team FeePay has acquired, Shamrock Rovers being the main one so far. Team FeePay is an easy to use online payment platform that covers management and administration, finance, club development, communication, governance and COVID track and trace. Club administrators save hours of time with Team FeePay, save time on administration and finance. You can quickly confirm, decline and record attendance at club sessions and events. With a new database created, parents and players register with the system, which in turn creates and builds a player database for the club. Team groups can be easily set up for easy access to data. Real-time transaction updates. Team FeePay keeps club administrators or team managers updated on processed payments, but also flags up incomplete transactions and automatically emails the payee to give notice of a future attempt. Team FeePay already works with over 1,000 leagues, clubs and academies and are growing all the time. Team FeePay is proud to be helping clubs across multiple sports. Team FeePay is free to use, it's free to install by all of their members. There are no hidden fees, there is no sign-up fee, no annual fee and no monthly membership fee. The processing fee. Team FeePay charge a very modest fee for any financial transaction that they process, similar to the bank or other credit card processor fees. Book your Zoom demo today at teamfeepay.com or call on +353 1526 7499. So on to Talca Park. Shelbourne won, Wexford 0. Shell's first league win of the season. I was at this game, and it was I spoke about Sligo and Shamrock Rovers being a dull game. This was a very, very dull game. I'm not going to lie. It was like watching paint dry. This one, it was not a spectacular game. Shells obviously did what they needed to do to get the win, but Wexford basically gave them the goal. But I mean, in terms of the game, Shells pretty much dominated possession, but there was no real clear-cut chances. There were some strikes from distance. I think Jimmy Corcoran maybe made a couple of saves here and there, but nothing major of note, especially the first half. And then going into the second half, you're thinking, well, if Wexford have done well to stay 0-0 here, and you'd be wary that they may nick a goal here as well. So there was always that kind of feel about it. But it's just both teams, they just, from an attacking sense, they just never really got going, and it was all possession and trying to create chances, but nothing was really happening. And yeah, it was just, look, Shells will be delighted just to get the win, and obviously got it from a Cabo O'Connor corner, and whatever way one of the Wexford defenders, it looked like it came off the back of his head, and then it was put in then by Conor Crowley. He was trying to head it away, and he was on the line, and he managed to knock it in, and that was 1-0. And I think, obviously we know I'm a Shells fan. I think we were lucky to get that goal, very lucky. And if that goal hadn't came, you'd be wondering where the goal was going to come from, which is frustrating to say, because there's obviously a lot of new signings, and waiting for a lot of the new signings to kind of come good. And not that they've been bad, because I thought Michael O'Connor was brilliant from a centre forwards perspective. The way he was taking the ball in, and he was just holding off players and just laying it off. He was brilliant for being, say, an outlet for the rest of his teammates, because it allowed Chelsea to get up the pitch, or he was able to take it in and get people up in support. And I think once maybe him and Yo-Yo Maddy get a goal, I think they'll start raining goals then. I mean, because defensively look very good, and even down the right hand side with J.R. Wilson, he looked quite good as well. Lively, pacey, and looks like he'd take on anyone 1-on-1. So there are good players there, but it is a very new team. Even the goalkeeper, Brian Clark, as well. It's a very new team, and I think they'll take a while to click. In terms of Wexford, I think, look, they would have been trying to nick something, but I don't think that obviously the way the goal was scored, they'd be disappointed, but I don't think they'd be coming away from there expecting to win anyway. But when you saw 1-0, were you expecting more, or were you expecting less, Gary?
Well, I was expecting more from Shells, really, Paul. They have one of the biggest budget. I take your point about waiting for the team to click, and I did watch on LOI TV the Galway Shells game on the opening night. I was very impressed with Shells, and even particularly with 10 men, they could well have won the game, hitting the woodwork and everything. And you have to say, Shells and Galway have got to be the two favourites for promotion, and probably in the end battling it out for automatic promotion. And but Wexford have, I know they've lost their 3 games, but they haven't been that bad. Probably a little bit unfortunate to lose to Treaty United. And they do have in Jack Doherty a quality player who maybe could well even play at a higher level. And so, having said that, I still expected Shells to win a little bit more comfortably than that, but it's still the 3 points. And those kind of 1-0 wins that you eke out, maybe when you're not playing as well as you should be, they are the kind of results that win titles or earn promotion. So it's important to get the 3 points when you're not at your best.
Yeah, Jay, what were your feelings when you saw it? I doubt you were surprised, were you?
No, not surprised that Shelbourne obviously won the game, but the scoreline, I think I would have expected this to be a 2 or 3 goal victory. Like I seen them the previous week against Bray, and while that was a topsy-turvy game, they still had strong moments. They scored 3 goals in that match, and you think that like Wexford, who hadn't picked up a point yet, you would have kind of fancied them to win this game comfortably. But just from listening to your updates on the match on the socials Friday night and reading the extra time report, it didn't kind of seem the most lively as the games, all right, so far this season. Wexford did seem to cause a bit of a threat through Paul Fox. He had a couple of chances for them. By all accounts, extra time as well. We're saying JJ Looney and Ryan Brennan were probably Shell's best players in the first half, and they had a couple of chances maybe in the second half to add a second one, but just didn't fall of them. I think just to get that win is probably the most important kind of thing for Shelbourne after 2 draws and 2 tricky games though against Galway and Bray. 2 teams I think are definitely going to be high up for there, but they've got that monkey off their back now, I suppose. Just probably the only thing is, as you touched on, like new signs like some Michael O'Connor, Yo-Yo Mandy. They haven't scored yet. I kind of agree with you. It's one of them as well because they've got plenty of experience and they are, 2 players that were talked up as good prospects a couple of years ago. You find if one can kind of eventually come for them, that they'll probably take off as well. I think Glenn McCauley only has 1 game left to serve in his suspension. He's a former Liverpool U team player, so there shouldn't be any shortage of goals, certainly for Shelbourne going forward.
Yeah, and Luke Byrne will be back as well. I think he'd be a massive addition to the side as well. I think he's been a big loss because of suspensions and stuff like that. I think the suspension's still carrying on from the playoff game against Longford. So he was saying that at the game on Friday that he'll be back. So I think, yeah, as you said, I think it was more important for Shells to just get the win more than, how they got the win. It was just get that win, clean sheet, and move on to the next game, big game against Cork this week. And I spoke with Michael O'Connor after the game. You can hear what he had to say here.
We're here at Talcott Park, freezing after the result. A 1-0 win. First win in Shelbourne jersey for yourself. Talk me through the game.
Yeah, look, we needed the win, I thought we were unlucky last week, a few silly mistakes, but tonight I thought we were good. Our game management was better towards the end and stuff. We went 90 mile an hour. We needed that win going to Cork next week, which is massive. So hopefully that's the start of a good run there for us.
Yeah, did you think, obviously, with the last couple of games there was the early sending off in Galway, and then it was kind of back to the wall, not getting the result last week, but scoring goals. But then tonight, do you think it's just getting the first win under the belt now?
Yeah, under the belt. Obviously the first one got Glenn sent off, and then we actually probably should have won the game. We had the better chances. Galway couldn't break us down, but then we're only new as well and we're still trying to click. But look, we're not losing games, that's the main thing. We haven't lost. We got our first win at home, and the main aim is not to lose at home, so hopefully we can kick on from here.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing. I think a lot of people are getting carried away with it. A lot of quality's been brought in, but obviously it's going to take time for these players to click. I know yourself and Yo-Yo up front, for example, are 2 players who probably haven't played together before this year, and just trying to jet.
I'm used to playing up front on my own, and obviously I've never played with Yo-Yo before, and Yo-Yo's top goal scorer in the league last year, and he's a joy to play with, like everyone else on the pitch. But we have a great squad, and I've no doubt, when it clicks, it's going to be, powerful.
Yeah, you seem to be the linchpin of the team anyway. Everything seems to be coming through you. I saw some great centre forward play from yourself, just taking the ball in and just laying it off simple for a lot. I'd say the players are delighted playing with you because you take a lot of pressure off them.
Yeah, it's my strengths, and if I'm helping the team, I'm delighted doing that. It's all I can do from there. If I'm in front of them boys, just hit me and I'll help you. As much as possible. There's no need to start mixing things up. If it's working, keep doing it.
Yeah, obviously next for yourself is just to get that goal, get yourself off the mark, and hopefully have a good season then.
Yeah, I've hit the crossbar, and then in my own head I thought I've played well in the last couple of games. So hopefully the next one to just get a goal and get off the mark.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for your time, Michael. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you.
Okay, on to the Markets Field. Gary, you'll have to talk me through this game. Obviously 1-1. Sean McSweeney with the goal, and then Darrell Walsh with the equaliser, and there was a red card in there in between that as well. On the 33rd minute, Charlie Fleming with the red card. Do you want to talk us through the game, because you were obviously at it?
Yeah, it was really enjoyable and a great game. Plenty of incident. Another one is a shame there wasn't fans at it, but might have been a bit controversial. Might have been some issues if there was fans at the game. And a real topsy-turvy one. Probably in the end, I felt a draw was a fair result, although both managers would probably feel, and did feel, that they deserved to win it. Treaty definitely on top in the opening half an hour, deservedly led through Sean McSweeney. And the game probably turned considerably on that incident in the 33rd minute. Charlie Fleming went down in the box. Now, from my angle in the main stand, it looked like he went down a little bit too easily. I believe if you watch it back in LOI TV, or people I was speaking to from the camera on the other side, it did look like a penalty. And anyway, the referee had decided he dived and had the yellow card already out of his pocket and running towards him. And before he could get there, there was a little bit of an altercation between Charlie Fleming and Darrell Walsh. And he did appear to move his head towards Darrell Walsh. Well, he did. The referee put the yellow card back in his pocket and issued a straight red. And basically, he had no option when the player leads with his head. I think there's no option on that. Desperately disappointing from a treaty perspective, because it's the third game in a row that we've had a player sent off. And I don't think the other decisions cost any points, and that it was already 0-0 in Bray and played the last half an hour with 10 men. And I think a point in Bray was a superb result anyway. And even though they played the last half an hour against Wexford with 10 men, still held on to win 2-1. This time, playing with 10 men for an hour was just too much to expect. And Cobh were a different team after the red card. And they more or less took control of the game. Treaty will push back, and now Treaty do defend very well. Tommy Barrett has the team very well organised, and they have a fine goalkeeper in Ty Grine. The equaliser came 5 minutes into the second half, and ball was played into the box and was cleared, and there appeared to be a foul on Ty Grine. He certainly went down, but Darrell Walsh met it superbly with a volley. And Stuart Ashton actually described it to me afterwards as the goal of the season, and it may well be considered that, but it's certainly a superb goal and one of the contenders anyway. And it just flew into the net. And at that point, you're thinking 1-1, they've 40 minutes left against 10 men, and you'd expect Cobh maybe to go on and win the game. And I think, in fairness, that's probably what Stuart Ashton would have expected as well. And Cobh did dominate a lot of the remainder of the game, but the best chance actually fell to Treaty when Ed McCarthy was around the goalkeeper and had to put the ball into an empty net, and he just seemed to take too long. And that man, Darrell Walsh, who was involved in just about everything in the game, he managed to get back and make an incredible goal line clearance to save a certain goal that probably would have won the game, maybe a little bit undeservedly for the 10 men. So from a treaty perspective, I was very happy with the point. It's a third game, remain unbeaten. It's a great start to the season. From a Cobh perspective, I think Stuart Ashton would probably be delighted to get on the board, a point away from home, having been a goal down, but maybe feel it was a chance to get 3 points as well, given that they were up against 10 men for an hour.
Yeah, I think you've pretty much summed everything up there. Have you anything to add on Gary's points?
No, I think Gary has pretty much covered it all there. Just more so a question for Gary. The red card situation, discipline, major problem so far for Treaty. 3 games in, and they haven't seen out with a full 11. How frustrating and annoying as a fan and concerning is that for you? Because I know, fair enough, you said you don't kind of expect Treaty to challenge that much this season. In the other 2 games, it didn't make any difference to the outcome of the result. But this definitely would have been a game that you would have been targeting as a win beforehand. And that probably sending off a Charlie Fleming probably did cost you getting 2 extra points.
Yeah, I think if Charlie Fleming didn't get sent off, if he kept 11 men on the field, you would have expected Treaty to go on and win the game. Certainly they were the dominant team for the first half an hour. It has to be a concern. Now, in the first 2 games, I think there were only like 4 or 5 yellow cards in total. But unfortunately, the same player, Sean McSweeney and Bray and Clyde O'Connell at home to Wexford, picked up the 2 of them. And so discipline has got to be a concern. I'm sure it's something to work on. I mean, Treaty travelled to Eamon DC Park on Friday night to play Galway, and there's no way they're going to get a result in Galway with 10 men. It's going to be very difficult with 11. So you just have to keep everybody on the field. And it is a matter, particularly a player who's going to be on a yellow card, just to keep a bit of a cool head or something like that. I don't know. It has to be a concern, though, because it's not just playing the games without the players. It's also the suspensions. I imagine Charlie Fleming's going to get a 2 or 3 game ban now, whereas Sean McSweeney and Clyde O'Connell would have got 1 game each for the double yellows.
Well, that's the game. Obviously, Gary spoke with managers of both sides, Tommy Barrett and Stuart Ashton, to hear what they have to say here.
Tommy, just like to get your thoughts on the game. Probably a decent point considering you're 10 men for an hour.
No, I'm disappointed with the point, Gary. I think we should have had 3, even with 10 men. I thought, we had the best chance of the game. We got to kill it. Look, I'll probably be happy with it tomorrow, but overall the feeling is now that we should have 3.
Talk me through the first half an hour. You seem to be totally on top. Went the goal up with Sean McSweeney. Did the the penalty decision and then the red card, did that change everything?
Look, the decision by the ref was probably right. It was, Charlie did look like he went down a bit too easy for me, and it was booking, and then he goes head to head with your man, which is a sending off. You can't do it. Yeah, their defender hit the deck. He should have been booked for simulation, in my view. But Charlie shouldn't have went forward with his head, which he did, and it's unacceptable. It's a lack of discipline. I didn't think they were putting us under too much pressure. I thought their free kick into the box for the goal, I thought 9 times out of 10 the ref gives a free out when the keeper was impeded. But it was a really good finish by Darrell Walsh. So we can't take that away from him. But the lads dug in, and I thought again we had probably the best chances. A couple of good chances, and maybe we should have got a penalty up the other end. With Mark Ludden being taken out, but sometimes they go with you, sometimes they don't.
But overall, 3 games played, still unbeaten. You got to be delighted with the start so far.
Yeah, we're happy with it. We're happy with the lads' work rate and effort, and we still need to improve in our ball retention, and there's tougher games ahead. But probably tonight's the most I've been disappointed, because the effort the lads have put in, I felt we should have got to 3 points. But look, as I said, tomorrow we might be happy with the one.
That's great. Thanks, Tom. Stuart, can I get your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, obviously it was a hard-fought game, competitive game from both sides. Obviously, we had the early chance. We could have been up after a few minutes. We missed that chance, and then obviously they've gone ahead. And then second half, obviously, a dismissal, for them down to 10 men. We had all the play, but if we're being honest, we didn't use the extra man, and they could have punished us, if we're being honest. So from our point of view, it was sloppy. We didn't use the extra man. Having said that, we've had 1 or 2 chances as well, which we should have stuck away.
But away from home, you came from behind, so is it a bit of a curate's egg? I mean, it's a good point, or do you feel you could have won it with against 10 men?
Yeah, it's a good point away from home. You're taking something away with you, but against the 10 men, you've got to be saying if we'd done it better, bit more drive with our passing, etc. I think we could have taken something from the game.
And what about Darrell Walsh's goal? Were you impressed by that? It's a great
goal
finish.
Of the season. Yeah, you can't strike a sweeter ball than that, and he's got that in his locker. He's a great left foot on him, and he's been unlucky in the last few games. He's had some screamers that have gone whistling past the post, and he deserved that tonight,
And a great clearance near the end as well that saved the point.
Unbelievable. How we got back to that one, I don't know. I think they were celebrating before it went in. He's done fantastic there, yeah.
That's great. Thanks, Stuart.
Okay, on to Turner's Cross. Cork City 0, Athlone Town 1, and James Duna with the goal for Athlone. He actually went a signing that went under the radar for me. I didn't know he was actually at Athlone, but obviously a very good player, and I suppose he was at Rovers and Pats before, and I suppose everyone's been always wanting him to kick on and seeing him do well, and he just kind of hasn't really kicked on at all. Maybe this will be the making of him now, but a big win for Athlone, and it actually puts them top of the table with 3 games played and 7 points. So when you saw this, Gary, was it a shock that the Cork have lost this game for you, and how impressed have you been with Athlone so far?
Well, it was a mild surprise. I'll put it like that. Athlone have shocked me this season, but then when you look at their lineup and you look at some of the players they've signed, maybe I shouldn't be as surprised as I am, because they've got some experienced Premier Division players like James Duna, as you mentioned. I mean, he's effectively a Premier Division player at a good age, plenty of experience. Curtis Byrne as well, Michael Schlingerman in goal. So Athlone,
Adam Wickstead
as well. And I actually I saw them pre-season against Treaty United, even though they lost. They were very impressive in the second half of that game, and so the results probably shouldn't have come as a big a surprise for me, because they have started incredibly well. They got a very good point at UCD, probably winning until near the end. They were caught at the end. But the big shock, of course, was the win over Galway, and to be 3 up so quickly in that game. And then to go down to Turner's Cross and beat Cork. So that's hugely impressive. by a team that we've been used to seeing at the bottom of the first division for the last couple of years, albeit they got to the FAI Cup semi-final last season. But they have signed well, and I'm sure the Athlone Town fans are absolutely delighted. A Cork perspective, it's incredibly worrying. I mean, Cork made a good enough start. It looked to beat Cobh in the opening day in the Cork Derby or the Munster Derby. But very, very disappointing defeat by Cabinteely, and then to lose at home to Athlone. It has to be worrying times for Cork, because I think that their fans are hoping and expecting that they'd bounce back straight away into the Premier Division, and it's not going to be that easy for them. And particularly when you've got there's a lot of good sides in the First Division this season, and it's going to be very difficult for them. And 2 1-0 defeats, and Shelbourne coming down to Turner's Cross is suddenly looking like a massive, massive game for both clubs.
Gerard, Athlone, surprise package for you so far this season, and what have you made of Cork's start?
Not overly, like as Gary touched on there, like their signings during this off-season have been fantastic. Probably outside of Shelbourne, you could argue that they strengthened the best, and Gary touched on it there as well. Like there's players with Premier Division experience as well, and very similar as well to we talk about like what Pats were getting the Dundalk players in, that winning mentality. Just even looking down through their team the other night that lined up, the players who know what it takes to get out of this division. Aidan Friel has done with Finn Harps, and of course Shelbourne a couple of years ago. Gerard Gary was part of the Waterford team that came up. And even just looking at the substitute bench, like Shane Barnes when he came on as a sub, and he was scoring goals quite regularly in this division for Cabinteely last season. So it is a very, very strong enough team. Like there's no two ways about it. They're definitely a side I expected to be challenging the playoffs this season. Did I think they'd take 7 points in the first 3 matches? Probably not. I thought they might take 3 or 4 points, but it's been a fantastic result, and it's some turnaround, because their last game, the time they went to Turner's Cross, Cork beat them 7-0 back in 2017, and that's when Cork were on the cusp of winning the league. So just shows that really just then sums up the fall from grace for Cork. I mean, we talk about clients like Dundalk and Derry City having managers under pressure in the Premier Division. I'm not sure, 100% sure who is the Cork City manager. I'm sure one of you will let me know now. Or
Colin Healy, isn't it?
Colin. So who's seen out the reins from the end of last season. Like, she must surely be under pressure. And that Shelbourne game for me now has to become a must-win for them, because you look at their first 3 fixtures and you would have think Athlone and Cobh and Cabinteely, in fact, all 3 teams that finished outside the playoffs last year, that you would have fancied them to at least take 6 or 7 points. But it's been a very, very disappointing season for them so far. And by all accounts, from what I've heard from this game, apart from Dylan McGlade as well, they didn't really seem to offer much in this game. They never looked like getting an equaliser as well when Curtis Byrne got that goal with 13 minutes to go. Very, very disappointing. We thought they hit rock bottom when they got relegated last season. It's clear that wasn't rock bottom. There could be worse to come yet for the Leesiders.
Yeah, I think with Athlone, I think I've been impressed with them so far this season. And Cork, yeah, as you say, it's going to be a massive game between Cork and Shells. There's obviously a massive rivalry there as well. If they can beat Shells, will be forgiven. But if they get beat by Shells again, I think it could be under massive pressure as well. But just the last of the games that were played, we had UCD and Bray, which was 0-0. For me, I didn't get a chance to see this game. I imagine there wasn't that many highlights. I know Paul Tierney was at the game and he called up both managers after the game. But from both of yours perspectives, 0-0, you weren't expecting much. They're quite similar, I think, in terms of Bray are probably a little bit more of a favourite, but I think they're quite similar in the way they are. What would you say, Gary?
Yeah, it's Bray are a bit of a strange one for me. I mean, they drew 0-0 in the opening day against Treaty. Probably felt they did enough to have won the game, but frankly didn't. And then involved in a 3-3 draw with Shells, which sounded like an incredible game. And then back 0-0 to UCD. I mean, to me, Bray and UCD, Bray probably I would expect maybe a little bit better, but they're probably 2 teams that will be there or thereabouts when it comes to the playoff places. Bray will probably feel a little bit unfortunate not to have gone up automatically last season, and then a bit unfortunate in the playoffs. So, but if you're looking at the money spent at teams like Shelbourne and Galway, the squads they've assembled, it'll be tough for Bray to compete with them. But I would expect Bray to certainly be in the playoff positions. UCD, they lost guys like Yo-Yo Maddy, who's a massive loss, but they did keep on to Colin Whelan. So they will again be one of those teams you'd expect to be there or thereabouts in the playoff positions. I don't expect UCD to get promotion, but they always do seem to find some players. So maybe the draw wasn't that big a surprise, but Bray drawing 0-0, 3-3, then 0-0 again. I don't know. It seems a bit strange to me.
Yeah, Gerard, just finally, lastly on you, what are your kind of thoughts on this game?
Yeah, it's from one scale to the other, Bray. Either it's exciting or it's dull. Yeah, just to chat to Paul Tierney about this game as well, and just from the report, the draw was a fair result. I think both teams were fairly even on the night. That two teams as well, we talk about similar in terms of positions. There are two teams as well similar in terms of style. They try and both play football, and that was the case on Friday night. Just unfortunately, attacking quality kind of let both teams down. I don't think either team done enough to really win that game on Friday. Just like, you know, about like with UCD using Yo-Yo Mandy and keeping hold of the likes of Colin Whelan, but even as well, you still look down through their team, the likes of Paul Doyle, Liam Corrigan, Jack Keeney. All these players were very strong in this division last year. Sean Brennan has experience of playing across the water as well. I think albeit mainly at youth level, but it's still a pretty strong, decent team. And I know from chatting to one of their own players as well, Adam Lennon, who, like myself, is a fellow Roscommon man, the ambition for them this season is they want to win that division. They're going all out for so they will be reasonably happy enough, I think, so far this season. Probably more so than Bray, who I think would have expected to at least have a win by now. But I think they've Athlone now next. So that's going to be a very, very interesting game, because you probably would have felt at the start of the season that would have been a banker 3 points for Bray. Not anymore after the Midlanders starts the season.
Yeah, well, obviously Paul Tierney caught up with both managers. He caught up with Gary Cronin and he caught up with Andy Moylan. You can hear what they had to say here.
We'll take the positives out tonight's result, all right. You know, when we look back on the three games, it's probably, and as we can see, 3 are unbeaten as well, so it mightn't have been a bad result. But that was one we were disappointed we didn't pick up 3 points at home at the first game of the season. But the two results since, you know, on paper they're not bad results, but you know, we want to add a couple of wins. Tonight's game on its own, you know, I think it was a fair result.
Yeah, and is it a bit of a worry that 2 of your 3 games have been goalless? I know you got 3 against Shells last week, but is it a bit of a worry maybe?
Yeah, we made up for it against Shells.
Yeah.
No, look, I mean, the Treaty game and this game, we've started the game without out and out centre forwards. That's just the way. Sometimes you know, it doesn't rain, it pours, and you know, the 3 lads, Dara, Joe, and I know Joe came on, but he was carrying, and Gary obviously went off early against Shells. They're just not right, not 100% fit with their respective injuries. Dara's is a knee job, so it sort of changed what way you have to do a few things, and obviously, you know, you're expecting your centre forwards to score goals as well, and we didn't have 3 of them on the pitch. But we have other players around that can score. I just feel the game tonight went in a way where obviously we looked to nullify their threats. Thought we'd done it overall quite well, and I'd imagine, I haven't spoken to Andy about that, but I imagine he'd done the same against us, because we scored three really good goals last week as well away to Shell. So, and I think that came through in the game today, that, you know, both defences are really good, and they sort of cancelled out the attacks overall, like, you know. I haven't looked back at the game now, but that's the initial reaction to it.
Yeah, and Athlone up next, they've got 7 points out of 9. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's so be it. It's early doors. It's like I keep saying for ours, it's 27 games to win the league over. The first year I took over, we won 3 out 3, no goals conceded, and we finished 5th. Like, you know, I wouldn't read too much into that. Like, you know, but yeah, Athlone are on a good run. Obviously, I'd be delighted to have 7 points. They have 2 wins under the belt. But we have to go do our business next week. We prepare for it, and I think you look at all the results and they're quite tight.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's a kick of a ball. I'm sure our results could have went either way in the end today. Kick of a ball, and but looking at the opposition or the other 4 games, they were quite tight as well. So I don't think there's going to be a hell of a lot in it until it opens up now, probably mid-season.
Yeah, that's great, Gary. Thanks very much. Yeah. Andy, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, really tough, hard-fought game between 2 decent sides, I thought, tonight. I suppose definitely happy enough with the defensive side of our game tonight. Probably just missing at times that final ball to unlock it. Maybe should have had a penalty, could have had a penalty. So happy enough overall with the performance. Another clean sheet, 2 in a row. So that's something we've been looking to do this year. So happy with that. So overall, listen, draws a fair result in the game, I think. On another night, like I say, it goes your way and you might nick it, but that's what it would be. You'd be just nicking it.
Yeah, and good performances from, in particular, Sean Brennan and Jack Keeney out of position as well.
Yeah, well, that is Jack's position. So,
is it actually?
Yeah, absolutely. So he's done really well for us, Jack. There we play with the three in the back this year. Sean has been absolutely fantastic since he's come in from Rovers. Fantastic attitude, really good player, really good quality. I think Sean over the last couple of games just what a good player he is, and the reason why he was across the water in the first place as well. So delighted with Sean. So listen, I don't want to single lads out around like that, because to be honest, be quite happy again with the 11, exactly the same as last week. Really happy with how their attitude is, the performance level. So delighted overall.
Yeah, and finally next week, Cabinteely up here again, obviously depending on what's happening with the situation there. Yeah. What's your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, like Cabo again started the season really well. We have to take it from this point of view that we'll be playing next week. So we'll see what happens during the week. But it's a local derby for here. So we'd expect a really tough game, as it always is against Cabinteely. They've started the season really well. They've got some good players. So again, we'll just prepare as best we can. We look to be as tight as we can defensively again, like we were tonight, and see where that takes us.
Great, Andy. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Bob.
Okay, and lastly, obviously a game that was called off due to COVID. It was only called off a couple of hours before kickoff. But the FAI put out a statement saying, following discussions with the HSE around a positive COVID-19 case at the club, Cabinteely have informed the League of Ireland that they are unable to field a team for the scheduled SSE Electricity First Division fixture against Galway United. The fixture will not take place at tonight, and this matter will now be referred to the FAI's disciplinary control unit. Disappointing that was the case and the game was off, because obviously we had lads going to that. I think Paul Tierney was originally meant to be going to the game in Cabinteely, and it ended up going to UCD instead. And obviously Jonathan was meant to go as a photographer, but we surprised. I know we'd done a separate show speaking about COVID and stuff like that, and then you have this popping up. I mean, it doesn't look well.
Unfortunately, in these COVID times, we are going to lose the odd game, and I think it's a huge disappointment for Cabinteely, given that such a fantastic start to the season with 2 great wins. I'm sure they would have been absolutely buzzing and looking forward to playing Galway. I'm not sure. I don't know the facts, Paul, so I think it'd be very harsh to talk about giving the points to Galway. But it must be very.
No, they're the Chinese whispers of people I know. There's nothing regarding the club or the FAI come out and saying that. So.
All right. So I'm sure it's very, very frustrating for Cabo, because they'd made such a fantastic start to the season, and they would have been absolutely buzzing and looking forward to facing Galway. It's also very frustrating from a Galway perspective, coming off that very disappointing defeat in Athlone. I'm sure they would have wanted to get that out of their system, and unfortunately from a treaty perspective, it might be in DC Park on Friday night that they get that bad result out of their system. Incidentally, John Caulfield, even though he would have been in Dublin when the game was called off, still managed to make it to the Markets Field to watch Treaty United and Cobh Ramblers. So I'd say speed limits must have been broken there on the way down the motorway, but fair play to him. And
Chinese whispers.
That's not Chinese whispers. I could see him in the stand. But,
no, I'm talking about speed limits.
Speed limits. Well, I leave that up to the Gardaí. Don't worry about that one. But fair play to John Caulfield. He certainly works incredibly hard, and it will be a massive game for him. I'm sure he's not going to be happy that his team are stuck on 1 point and will have to play catch up now with a game. And because obviously the big focus on Galway is to win this division, or at least compete very strongly to win the division. They've gone full time this year, so it's a real statement of intent. So they'll be very disappointed as well. The game will be called off. Look, I think it's just unfortunate with COVID. I mean, there are still cases out there. Players are. I don't actually know what the situation is with the testing anymore. I know there was a lot of testing went on last season to allow the games to come back and the games to continue. So I don't know if the squad or the squads in the Premier and First Division are tested on a regular basis anymore. I don't know if you know, lads, or maybe someone in the comments can let us know. But I think it's just unfortunate. I mean, who knows where you can pick up COVID at this stage? You can get it in the supermarket or anything like that. So I think it may be harsh to punish a club if they have to call a game off at this stage. But again, I don't know the facts or what went on here. But probably for both sides, disappointing and probably frustrating that the game couldn't go ahead.
And Jer, anything to touch on there before we wrap it up?
No, just the only thing, going back to your Chinese whispers, it will be interesting to see what is going to happen with this game, because I'm 90% certain, I won't say I'm for definite, but I think the FAI did say at the start of the season there will be no rearranged matches for Cobh. That game, 3 points will be awarded on the day. Like, again, we haven't heard anything concrete on this, so it will be interesting just to see what will happen. There probably is more flexibility in the first division to rearrange matches because there's only 3 rounds of games, so there probably is a little bit more freedom as opposed to the Premier Division with 4. But just kind of the same as to what Gary kind of said, like, it just will be interesting to see what effect this will have on Cabo, because as they traditionally do in the first division, they start the season quite well, so whether this will break their momentum or not, it's hard to know. And that's what the Galway kind of point of view, I suppose. This was finally their chance to unleash the hurt and anger and disappointment from the Athlone defeat, and unfortunately for Gary now, that's going to build up for an extra week ahead of Treaty United on Friday night.
Yeah, I think the most frustrating thing probably for Galway's point of view is, you know, how late it was, probably people going to the game and stuff like that. That's probably the most annoying thing. It was I think around 6 o'clock or whatever when I got the notice. It could have been between 5:30 or whatever, but it's still quite late in the day, and they'd obviously have made their trip up from Galway, you know.
Yeah, I think it was 20 to 6 it was called off, if I remember the exact time. So they obviously would have been in Dublin at that stage. And it is very late. They've made all their plans and everything, so it must be extremely frustrating for them. I think to be very harsh to award Galway are certainly the innocent parties on this, but I think it'd be very harsh on Cabo to just award the win to Galway like that. But again, I don't know the facts of what went on there.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see what happens and what the outcome is on that. Huge thanks, lads, for joining us for the League of Ireland show, episode 3. Let us know your thoughts in the comments on anything we discussed. And don't forget to like the video. Share the video with your friends as well. Lots of people telling us that we're doing good stuff for the league. So if your League of Ireland friends don't know about us, why not tell them and share the video. Please don't subscribe. Or please don't forget to subscribe. Please do subscribe. And we'll speak to you all soon. Thanks for watching.